Hello students, a very good morning. So far in this essay on National Prejudices, we have read that Oliver Goldsmith, who himself is the speaker of this essay, he happens to be of a traveling kind of person, and due to this habit he often meets with various kinds of people. So he is talking about one such meeting in which he meets with some half a dozen people who were having a discussion on some political affair, and as they were unable to decide it in a fair portion, so they referred that matter to the speaker or to the writer himself. And meanwhile, in that discussion, it has also cropped up the topic that how are the characters of the different people of different countries of Europe, and one gentleman among them, he in a very declarative manner, in a very boasting manner, in a very supremely aired manner, it declared that all the countries of Europe or all the people of the countries of Europe have one or another vices in them, and as far as the good qualities like generosity, like character or bravery, in all these kindness, in all these qualities, the English people excelled all. And except the writer, except the speaker, all the other people, they have welcomed this idea or this speech with a very smiling faces, but the writer, he had just shown an indifferent look to that idea. So the speaker or the person, the gentleman who has declared this thing, he was not happy with this, and he asked the writer that okay, what he thinks. And on this, the writer has told the company that if he is supposed to speak on these matters, then first of all he must go and visit these countries, and only then he would have made a judicious remark that okay, this is not the same. In some matters they have also good qualities, and in some matters there are also bad qualities in English people also. So next, let's go ahead. I could easily perceive that all of the company began to regard me with a jealous eye before I had finished my answer, which I had no sooner done than the patriotic gentleman observed with a contemptuous sneer that he was greatly surprised how some people could have the conscience to live in a country which they did not love, and to enjoy the protection of a government to which in their hearts they were inveterate enemies. So the writer, he says that as soon as I have spoken these words, that even the English people have some faults in them, even the Germans, even the French, they have some good qualities. So he says, I could easily perceive that thing, that the whole of the company begin to regard me with a jealous eye even before I had finished my answer. That answer, that before telling the qualities of different countrymen, I must visit those countries, I must have a close observation of these people, and then only I would be able to tell that okay, which country has good manners or which not. Until or unless I am unable to pass judgment on such a thing. But he said that until even before I have finished my answer, those people in my company, they have started looking at me with jealous eyes, as if I have committed some crime, as if they were not happy with my answer, and which I no sooner done, and as soon as I have completed my answer, then the patriotic gentleman observed. Then the gentleman who has declared this thing, that in all the qualities of generosity and kindness and bravery, the English excelled all the world. So that person, he observed it in a very instantly, very quickly. He came on that observation, on that conclusion. What? with a contemptuous sneer, and that hateful sneer, that hateful look of haughtiness was on his face, that he was greatly surprised that how some people could have the conscience to live in a country which they did not love. Means, again, he has brought up that patriotic thing, that love for the nation thing in this conversation, and he says that I am surprised to hear this thing, that how some people who don't love the country in which they live, and still they are living in that country, and to enjoy the protection of a government to which in their hearts they were inveterate enemies, and they enjoy the protection of a government, of the government to which they have inveterate means perpetual, permanent enemies in their heart. Means in their heart they have no love for this country, for the country in which they are living. In their heart they have grudges, in their heart they have hatred, in their heart they have contradictions about the government, of whose benefits, of whose services they are taking benefit of. So this is what that patriotic gentleman has observed or has commented. Means he is just mocking the writer, or mocking the speaker, that how can you say these words? You are an English person, you live here, you take the benefits from this government, and still you are saying that the French are also good, you are saying that the Germans are also good. That is not a good act to be done by a person living in the country like England. Finding that by this modest declaration of my sentiments, I had forfeited the good opinion of my companions and given them occasion to call my political principles in question, and well knowing that it was in vain to argue with men who were so very full of themselves, I threw down my reckoning and retired to my own lodgings, reflecting on the absurd and ridiculous nature of national prejudice and prepossession. So the writer, he says that when I have find out this, that by making this modest declaration of my sentiments, because as far as the writer's statement is concerned, he had spoken in a very modest terms, that if if you are asking this to me, then first I would like to make a tour of all these countries, and then only I would be able to make a judicious comment that this country has this fault, this country has this virtue, this country has this fault, this country has this virtue. So this is what he says, that I would be able to speak anything in this topic in relation to this thing only when I made a tour of these countries. And what the person who has declared English supremacy, what he says, that how can you be so rude, how can you be so insolent, so as you can be speaking against the country in which you are living, the government whose benefits you are having. So he says that finding out this thing, that this modest declaration of my sentiments, as it has been made by me, was not I had forfeited the good opinion of my companions. By speaking this, I have made the good I have made a bad impression on the companions of mine. I think that I have forfeited the good opinion, the opinion which they have expressed. I have spoken in against of this thing, and given them occasion to call my political principles in question, and I have also given them a chance to question my political principles, that what kind of political views I have. So, and well knowing this thing, and I also know this thing, that it was in vain to argue with men who were so very full of themselves. And I also knew this thing, that it is quite useless to argue with them, because they have already made their minds, they have their own ideas completely filled in their minds. So what I thought is just useless or just vain to argue with them. So I threw down my reckoning, means I just had my regards with them, exchanged the regards with them, and retired to my own lodgings. I came back to my room, to the place where I have been staying, and there, after coming back to my lodging, after coming back to my room, to the place where I have been living, I started to reflect on this absurd and ridiculous nature, this very means absurd kind of nature of national prejudice and prepossession. Means then, after coming back to my room, after coming back to my possession, I started thinking about this thing, that okay, how these how people use national prejudices as something so great and something so big. Among all the famous sayings of antiquity, and this is what he started thinking, this is what he is trying to say to us, which he has thought about in privacy, in his retirement, in his room, that among all the famous sayings of antiquity, there is none that does greater honor to the author or affords greater pleasure to the reader, at least if he be a person of generous and benevolent heart, than that of the philosopher who, being asked what countryman he was, replied that he was a citizen of the world. So he says that among all the famous sayings of antiquity, there has been many sayings, there have been many proverbs since antiquity, since olden times. There is none that does greater honor to the author, to myself. The most honorable saying, the most honorable proverb is what? Or which affords greater pleasure to the reader, at least if he be a person of generous and benevolent heart. And he says, even to the reader, the most beneficial, the most profitable saying, if it is any, or if the writer has a benevolent heart, then what it is? It is that when it was asked to a philosopher that to which country he belongs, then he replied that he was a citizen of the world. Means he doesn't belong to a specific country, he belongs to this whole world. Means he is a representative of the humanity. And this is what he is saying. And that is why the writer is saying that this seems to be more befitting to me as an author and as a reader. If the reader is kind-hearted, then this suits him best, this proverb, this saying, that to be a citizen of world is greater than to be a citizen of any specific country. How few there are to be found in modern times who can say the same, or whose conduct is consistent with such a profession. He says, now I wonder that in present day, how many people we can find who can say the same thing, that yes, I am a citizen of the world. And how many people are there who are consistent, means who are honest, who are in league with their profession, means whatever profession they have, they are true to it, they speak in accordance to it. We are now become so much Englishmen, Frenchmen, Dutchmen, Spaniards or Germans that we are no longer citizens of the world. He says nowadays, in present world, we have become so much divided with these national boundaries, with these national prejudices, with these national prepossessions, that we call ourselves as Englishmen, as Germans, as French or as Spaniards, but not the citizens of the world. So much the natives of one particular sport or member of one petty society that we no longer considered ourselves as the general inhabitants of the globe. He says that we have become so much the inhabitants of a particular place, of a specific place. We have become so much the members of a petty, means a very small society. We have engrossed ourselves so much with that small society that we don't consider ourselves as the general inhabitants, the general living humans of the globe, or members of that grand society which comprehends the whole humankind. And we don't like ourselves to be considered the member of that society which encompasses the whole humanity in its orbit. Means we like to call ourselves with those nationalistic identity instead of that humane identity, that yes, I am a human being and I belong to humanity, I belong to this world. Instead, we call ourselves as French or Italian or Spaniards or Englishmen, and we consider ourselves as a member of a very petty small societies. So this is what he is arguing against. This is what he is talking about, that we have grown too much obsessed with these national identities, with these national prejudices, that we have forgot our universal identity. And what is that? That is that we are humans. So this is it for the day. Thank you.